Great. Thank you so much, Wendy. I appreciate that. And big first question. Who are you? Who are you? That sounds like such a simple question. I'm me. I had to fill out the form this morning. Yep, there it is, me. And we have this nasty habit of thinking we know who we are. And frankly, my life has changed so many times, and I'm sure a lot of you have over the course of your careers, respectively, you've had changes. None of you came into this whole project management thing going, yep, this is my destiny. No, no, you were more like George McFly in Back to the Future going, this is my density. It was, I'm just not really sure where I belong. And as a result, as you move along, in fact, let me just take a quick look here in my email and see if I can find it. No, it's not front and center, so I can't find it right off the bat. But I got an email this morning, this very morning, and it was a past student who was saying to me that her significant other made the call. This morning, he came up to her and said those magic words, I got to do something different with my life. Oh, wow. A day of reinvention, a day to look at your life and say, not real exactly where I want to be with my life. I want to be, well, somebody different. And in many cases, but I still want to be a project manager. I still want to have the same role. I still want to have the same function. And the amazing thing is that when we're talking about reinventing ourselves, I do have to give you a forewarning on all this. Everything we're going to talk about between now and noon, just so you know, it's heavy lifting. Reinventing yourself is actually heavy lifting. It's not something that just, you know what, today I think I'll be a baseball player. No, there's a lot of heavy lifting between now and your reinvention. So if you want to create somebody new in your project management role, one of the first things you need to do is actually ask yourself, what do I want to be when I grow up? Can't tell you how many times I've asked myself that question. When I was 10, I was pretty confident what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a news guy. Wanted to be a reporter. Wanted to be somebody out there digging for news. That's why I became a journalism major in college. Oh, and I actually did it. For those of you who can see off the side of the screen there, if you're looking at the image, this little thing right here, that is my Senate and House Gallery press pass. Yeah, I was a real honest to gosh reporter. I reinvented myself from being a dishwasher, a pizza delivery guy. Oh, yeah. I've had all the jobs you could possibly imagine, but reinvention takes it a whole step further. It's saying, not just I'm going to change jobs, but I want to reinvent who I am. I want to be someone different. I want to be someone different. And that actually requires a little bit of vulnerability. It really does. You have to be a little bit vulnerable to say to somebody else. And that's why I was interested to get that email this morning, because it's a matter of, that means this gentleman went to his wife and said, I want to be somebody else, and I'm not happy with who I am now. Wow. That's a huge step. Actually acknowledging that who you are now is not necessarily the you that you want to be in the long haul. The long haul is, well, dare I say, a long haul. And at different points throughout your life, you'll decide and have that kind of almost a cardiac moment when you say, you know what, I am ready to reinvent. I am ready to change who I am. Now, your heart, your soul, it's probably not going to change. That part, it's still there. But if you're going to reinvent yourself, look at the dictionary.com definition here. It appears to be entirely new. Oh, I reinvent a lot of different things about myself over time. I really do. And some of them are just plain downright crazy. Some of them are nuts. That's one of them. 12 years ago. And I've been a yo-yo dieter my whole life. I've been the traditional yo-yo dieter. 12 years ago, I weighed 283 pounds. This morning, stepped on the scale, 179. And it only took me 12 years to get here. Whoa! Who was I? I was somebody who didn't care about my weight. Really didn't. I did care about the fact my hair was so dark. Wow, I love that. I got to fix that. I think I'm going to reinvent this. But that notwithstanding, who were you? When you look in the mirror, do you like yourself? That's an important question on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Really is. If you're thinking about reinventing yourself, you should first ask yourself the question, am I happy with myself? If you are, I have to forewarn you that reinvention becomes very, very difficult. One of the first criteria to actually reinvent yourself is a sense of dissatisfaction with where you are now. A sense that you're not quite where you think you ought to be. And wow, that's difficult. Now, the other side of it, though, also goes to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You still have to like the person who's looking back at you in the mirror. A friend of mine from high school, get together on rare occasion, but a friend of mine from high school, we were talking at a Cracker Barrel lunch one day, and he actually said to me these words. He said, "Do you like yourself?" I was like, actually, yeah, I think I'm actually kind of a nice guy. I do like myself. I enjoy being around myself. And he kind of sank his head a little bit, and he said, I don't. And I said, you don't like me? And he goes, no, I don't like myself. He said, I look in the mirror and I really don't like who I see. Now, let me just stress to you, that level of dissatisfaction, it's time to reinvent. It is time to reinvent. If there's a moment when you look at where you are, your station in life, and I don't mean social station, it's where you are, your station in life. And there's some aspect, part of that station that makes you dissatisfied, you're probably ready to reinvent. And I take a moment, if you would. Think back on all the jobs you've had. And there's a chat interface here. There's also a Q&A interface, but I'd love for a few of you to write into the chat just some role you have had in the past that you look back on and you're like, I am so glad I am never, ever, ever going back there. I'm not. I am never going back there. I had that job, and that job, that's the last time I will ever have that job. Did you have a job you just looked at and you're amazed you survived it, quite frankly? I'd like you to just type that into the chat if you would. What was that role? What was that job? What was that particular responsibility that you carried? That was, well, more than a little daunting. If you can just go ahead and put that into the chat interface, that would be a beautiful thing. Photo setting, cold calling, working in procurement. I never put it on my resume. Wow. Photo setting, you've gotten those phone calls. Hi, yes, we're setting it up at the Grace Church, wondering if you'd like to get your picture taken for the upcoming event. Yeah, cold calling. That's difficult. That's challenging. 100% traveling engineer. Yeah, any of you who have done the road warrior routine for an extended period of time. Now, I can't say I was 100%, but 100% traveling engineer, just exhausting, going from flight to flight, Marriott to Marriott, and just having that whole experience. Having a manager where my manager is not as people-centered as I am. Oh, wow. All of those things should not be looked back on as being, well, lesser roles. Drafting wiring diagrams. I'm sorry, hold on a moment. Oh, yeah, there we are. Yeah, drafting wiring diagrams. There you go. Just trying to make sure I got them all right. All the wires are in all the right lines. They're all following the right things. Call center sales to subprime borrowers. Hi, you can't afford a loan, but I'd like to sell you one anyhow. Wow. All of these, at some point or another, because of our role, we eventually get to the point where we're not necessarily enamored of who we were. And look at you now. Got 45 people on this call, and you know what? I am your psychic friend. I will bet you that more than half of you are certified project management professionals. Yeah, look at you. You're all that in a bag of chips. That's impressive because at some point in your life you said, I'm going to be someone different. I'm going to take on a different role. I'm going to be special. Now, a note about these other jobs. Believe it or not, out there somewhere, there's somebody who drafts wiring diagrams who lives to go into work every day, who loves that particular gig. Really. If you are currently in love with your current job, it becomes very hard to reinvent yourself. Had kind of a strange experience back in my hometown of Columbiana, Ohio. It's a map dot in Ohio. Don't mistake it for Columbia. Don't mistake it for Columbus. It's Columbiana. And I was back in my hometown visiting my sister, and we went to the local restaurant, the one that's been around forever. And we went into the local restaurant, and I had worked there in my house. Actually, I didn't work there, but I worked in the other restaurant that was owned by the current owner of that restaurant. And I was a dishwasher. And I walked in. And as I'm standing around, we're waiting for a table. I look up and there's this old guy standing behind the bakery counter. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Lowell Schloniger. I can't believe he's still alive. He was my boss. He was my boss when I was 16 years old. And Lowell looked up and he goes, oh my gosh, Carl Pritchard. I can't even believe it. Carl Pritchard. And we chatted for a minute or two. And he said, before you go get your table, just one thing, Carl. I want you to know you were the best dishwasher we ever had, ever. And he was serious. And the kicker, I knew he was right. There's a reason for that. And there was a reason I stayed a dishwasher for 3 years. Yeah, most people don't last washing dishes for very long. I stuck it out for 3 years. Why? Lowell honestly recognized and appreciated the fact that I did the job well. And to boot, I liked the job. This is why I stuck it out so long. This is why we do our job so well for an extended period of time, is because we actually like who we are in those roles. The day that stops, it's time for reinvention. It is time to go ahead and reinvent. You have to figure out, I no longer like the person in that role. I am ready to move on to a different role. There's my path: bartender, radio, writer, project manager, trainer. Every single one of those, for a while, I believed was end of the line. I have arrived. Oh, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I love this. I've had all those gigs and about 24 more. Each time, though, when you look at those, that's not a career path. That's kind of a career wobble. It's waggling all over the place. And yet, at some point or another, you identify there are aspects of your new you that you really, really like. So the path, first and foremost, you need to know who you want to be. I'd ask that question, but I'll already, again, be your psychic friend, and I'll tell you what one of the answers will be. What do you want to be? Somebody's sitting there going, retired. I just want to be retired. Most of you do not. You might say that, you might say it in jest, but the reality is you don't want to be retired. You really don't. No, what you want is the opportunity to flavor things the way you want them flavored. And that means identify who you want to be. And then notice what it says, create the opportunity. It's not just a matter of saying, okay, this is what I want to be. No, it's a matter of creating the opportunity, opening the door, and figuring out how people who do it and do it well did it. We're going to talk about some of those people here in just a few minutes. But beyond that, you have to actually start acting like somebody who does this. I had the honor of working with a woman who was a trainer, Connie Emerson. If you ever get a chance to take a training with Connie, she lives down in Florida. But if you ever get a chance to take a training with Connie Emerson, man, best trainer that ever walked the face of the earth. She was amazing. And you know what? If you identify who you want to be, who you want to reinvent yourself as, find a Connie Emerson. Oh, really? You've got to find somebody like that and watch them sing and dance. And the funny thing was, every time I would see Connie teach, I'd be thinking to myself, I would never do it that way. And still, every single time I saw her do it, saw her out on the training platform, I'd go, wow, she is so good. She owns this room right now. I can't figure out, how did she do that? And I would watch and I would study and I would learn. Those are the people you want to find. And you don't want to just go ask them, hey, if you've got some time, Raymond, I'd love for you to tell me how to be a good project manager. And Raymond would, of course, share that data freely and openly. No. The reality is that Raymond has a life, a job, and things to do. So instead, what you want to do is try and shadow these people to the degree you can, and then start acting like them, like the best in the business. You want to track, you want to follow the best. You really want to do. And when somebody says, yeah, that didn't work real well, you're insulting some people, in case you didn't catch on to that. Oh, well, good to know. Thank you for that. I'll make sure I don't do that again. And then be the new you and work your butt off. I have coached so many different people into consulting careers. And I do it. Actually, that's one of those things I do without asking for compensation. I simply want people to succeed. I really do. And it's interesting because I've had people come up to me going, I want to be a consultant. I just want to be a consultant. That's all I want to do. I don't want to work for anybody. I want to work for me. That's what I want to do. And I'll say, great. And they'll say, so do you got any suggestions on how I can even get started? And I tell them, I give them a long laundry list of, here are the first things you need to do if you're going to reinvent yourself in that regard. And by the time I'm done giving them their list, let's see, I can count on one hand the number of people who have actually done what I told them to do. And I've talked to a lot more than 5 people. But the thing is, most of them come back when I finish explaining what they've got to do. They go, well, is there a way to do it without all that work? And my answer is always the same. No, at least not that I know of. That's the only way I know to actually reinvent yourself, is to indeed work like a dog. And they go, but I want to be a consultant. I already have all the knowledge. And I said, having all the knowledge is this much. You need to expand your horizons and actually think, okay, you want to reinvent yourself into being a consultant, for example. You want to be an independent, I work for me consultant. That's the homework. That's the background stuff. It took me about 7 years to make it from a regular office job to working for myself. About 7 years. 7 years plotting, planning, organizing, orchestrating, setting it all up. And people are like, but I don't want to wait 7 years. Boo-hoo. Yeah, the reality is reinvention isn't there and you're reinvented. Reinvention is taking the time and doing the work it takes to actually make all this happen, to actually bring it all to bear. The first thing you've got to ask yourself is, what do you really want reinvented? You just after free time? Just after money? David Bird, a DJ I used to work with at Wash FM in DC. David Bird, one time I was talking to him, I was whining about not having enough money. And just so you know, if you're ever thinking of a career in radio, there is no money. Yeah. But I was talking to David one day and I said, wow. I said, you come in these Armani suits and you're always looking good. You're always driving a really hot car. How, how do you do that? And he said, well, I have a side gig. I said, well, what's your side gig? And he said, I'm a consultant. I said, wow. I said, so how do you make money? He said, oh, making money's the easy part. And I remember my head fell off. It did. I just was like, making money's the easy part? You've got to be kidding me. Making money's the hard part. But the more I talked to David, the more I came to the realization, in his world, he was right. He had created a situation. He had reinvented himself out of radio, even though he was still in radio, but he reinvented himself outside of radio to the point where people wanted his counsel, they wanted his insight, and they were willing to chase him down to get it. He actually set it up so that he could be someone different from everybody else we knew in radio. That's why you have to ask yourself the question, not only what do I want to be doing? That's the first question you've got to answer. And I doubt if it's a call center caller to subprime borrowers. Yeah, I doubt if that's who you want to be. But first, you need to figure out, okay, what do I want to be? Some people want particular roles because, well, they find they garner a lot of respect. Some people actually sign on and they say, you know what I really want to be? I want to be a preacher of the gospel. That's my brother-in-law, Dave. hmm Yeah, he wanted to be a preacher of the gospel. What was he? Car salesman. Okay. But no, David very carefully, step by step, reinvented himself out of car sales and into the gospel. That's reinvention. What did he want? He wanted a chance to share what he believed. That's actually what he wanted. And that's why you have to ask not only what job do I want? And he saw that as the main job for getting there. But secondly, what aspects have to be new? What has to be different? You know, a lot of being a minister is salespersonship. And my brother-in-law has that in spades. Really does. It's an amazing gift. And yet, what aspects needed to be new? What he was selling. Didn't want to sell Oldsmobiles anymore. That dates when he was going through this whole experience. But he didn't want to sell Olds anymore. He wanted to sell the gospel. Wow. It's kind of a weird shift. Not necessarily. Not if you know what aspect of your life you want to reinvent. First thing you need to actually write down. Here's the job I would like to have. Okay, so you should have written that down. Second thing, here's the aspect of that job that really makes it completely new from what I'm doing now. Here's the aspect of that job that makes me a completely different, reinvented soul. Yeah, it's a completely different perspective. So you have to ask yourself what aspects need to be new, but you also need to ask, okay, who do you want to be? Some of you wake up every single morning, you look in the mirror and you go, Jeff, oh, Jeff, it's me. It's me. I'm so glad to be me. Yeah, nice. You look in the mirror, you like who you see. Super. And this goes to my friend from high school, the one I mentioned earlier. He doesn't do that. I can honestly say I like looking at myself in the mirror when I get up in the morning because I like who I became. I really do. Do you want to be somebody else, though? Some people do. Some people look in the mirror and they go, you know what? I am not respected. I'm not respectable. I don't get what the recognition I merit. If that's the case, then yeah. Who else do you want to be? You know, in every career, there are moments where you get some level of recognition. Most of you have the t-shirt. Yeah. You've got the trophy. You've got that stuff hanging around your office that is, you know why you keep that? It's a healthy reminder that somebody acknowledged you for who you wanted to be. One of the things I happen to love about being a consultant, and I always have, is the fact that you get to be honored by the people you're working for. I love the fact that I have a cool client list. Oh, yeah, if you recognize the logo, the CIA. Yeah. But when you start building on and getting recognized for, I like the fact that I get to work with a lot of really cool agencies. I get to work with a lot of really cool companies. If that's what actually helps define you, good for you. And if that's not what helps define you, then start asking the question, what does? So let's just toggle back for a second because I want to make sure we're on the same page. First, identify who you want to be. Second, ask yourself what needs to be new? What needs to change? What do we actually need to shift in order to be that person? And then, who do you want to be? Do you like being yourself? There are certain people who I have met in my life that I am amazed and honored to have met them. Leroy Ward. Some of you have heard of Leroy Ward. He wrote the book Project Management Terms, a Working Glossary. Oh, yeah. He wrote the dictionary of project management. And Leroy and I are great buddies. And it's one of those things, the fact that I'm able to say that. Leroy and I are great buddies. Nice. I am honored by that connection. I really genuinely am. There are people I've run into in my life, and a lot of them are not known names in the project management community. I can think of two that are in big automotive, and that would be Joan Hart and Tom Trace. They're amazing people. I look at them and I respect both of them because they work their buns off to be the most amazing project managers humans can be. Wow. And when somebody says to me, who do you want to be in your next life? Let's see, Leroy's near the top of the list. Joan and Tom are right up there. They're up close to it. Other friends I've had the honor of working with through the years, Lee Lambert. These people are amazing. And note what you do if you know who you want to be. You find people who mirror those images and you get close to them. You do. You spend time with them. You offer to work with them and be with them. The fact that you build a bigger circle actually helps you reinvent yourself, helps you understand yourself and what you want to be in your new role and in your new life. What do you value? That, by the way, is Dave Bird, the guy who wore really, really nice suits at Wash FM. Yeah, look at that suit. Look at the hair. He obviously has it professionally done. Well, and I can argue it was COVID. That's why I haven't had my hair done lately. No, I just have crappy hair. But Dave always looked picture perfect, always. And when you pick out a role model, when you're looking at somebody for one aspect of your life, Dave would be the how do you generate money guy. Yeah. But when you find somebody who has that one particular capacity that you don't have, you need to find out what makes them tick. And it was so funny to me when David Bird said those words, oh, making money is not the hard part. And I just remember my jaw hit the floor. It's like, oh my gosh, Dave, you and I live in completely different worlds. And yet over time, a lot of the stuff that he shared with me and showed me, he's right. Making money is not the hard part. Finding the time, finding the energy. Because David was also somebody who I never saw it in him, but I later found out worked his butt off. Oh yeah. Yeah, for my money making days, I said I want to be David Bird. I want to figure out how does he do that. And indeed, I found out the true answer was work your derriere to a shine. I mean, just keep working and working harder than you think is humanly possible. And then once you have done that, once you have found the role model, once you've found the role that you're chasing, now it's time to actually create the opportunity. This, if you will, is the hard part. What can you do? If you ever get a chance to see the Anthony Hopkins, it's one of the Baldwin brothers, Alec Baldwin. Yeah, believe it or not, Alec Baldwin in a movie. But Alec Baldwin, Anthony Hopkins in The Edge. They're trapped in Alaska. They're being chased down by a bear. They're trying to figure out how do you kill the bear. And Anthony Hopkins looks at Alec Baldwin in the eyes and he says, what another man can do, I can do. Think about that. What another can do, I can do. And I remember the first time I saw that movie and I was like, that's a nifty little line. But it's true. What somebody else can do, you can do. You can create opportunities for yourself if somebody else can do it. Yeah. Because if somebody else can do it, all you have to do is figure out how did they do it. Being a consultant, another good example. Being a consultant, you look at consultants, what do they have? They have a knowledge base they can sell to others. It's basically it. Well, yeah, but how do I actually build a knowledge base? Oh, all you need to do is write several books. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, just write a few books. Carl, I'm not a writer and I really don't even have a book in me. Well, then start writing serious articles. I'm sorry, I guess you didn't hear me. I'm not a writer. No. Then find some other way to get out there and get your take on this out. By the way, you can do that today. Let me give you one tip. One thing you should do today to reinvent yourself. Seriously. At some point today, your cell phone will ring. At some point today, your cell phone will ring. And if it rings during this presentation, do not answer that phone. Wait till noon. Seriously, it'll be fine. But when they call, they're going to be asking you for gifted insight. Now, if this is gifted insight that advances your new you, your reinvented you, anytime anybody asks you anything that even tangentially ties into your newly reinvented you, here's what I want you to say. Wow, that's a really good question. You know, it's funny that you asked me that question today of all days, because I was thinking about writing up some notes and putting together a blog on that, and I was hoping to have it done by the weekend. Is there any chance you could wait till this weekend for an answer? Because what I'd like to do is I'd like to write that up, you know, because your question's really salient and thoughtful. And I'd like to write that up, and I'd like you to be the first person to read the blog before I post it. See if you have any thoughts, any feedback. Oh, you would? You'd do that for me? Thanks. And hang up. Now, what you've just done is created an opportunity. Now, you may not have been thinking what they were thinking. I don't care. Really don't care. But what you could be doing right now, and now what you get is you get the opportunity to be thoughtful. A lot of times we'll get those phone calls. Hey, I know this isn't your corner of the world, but I know you've also been looking into working on, and wow, I would love to have your thoughts on X. And we have this nasty habit of just jumping right into it. Oh, X. Well, you know, I think X should be right before Y and right after W. And we'll go on and just start talking about whatever it is they wanted to talk about. Bad idea. It doesn't make you smart. It doesn't give you a chance to be thoughtful. And if you want to be the thoughtful person, if you really do, if you want to be the thoughtful person, the person who really knows this stuff ice cold, stop yourself from the quick answer and just say, you know, it's funny. I was thinking about writing a blog on that. If you could just give me till Friday or Saturday, that'd be great. What you've done is you've bought yourself anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to think about it. Come up with a thoughtful response and write it down. Now, you write out a thoughtful response. and you archive it. You just told me you couldn't write a book. I hate to break it to you. You just wrote a couple of pages. Good start. Only about another 28,000 pages to go. But serious, I'm not 28,000, 28,000 words to go. And that means you've written about 1,000 words. So you've got about 27,000 words to go. What a clever way to start building your understanding of whatever topic it is that you want to make yourself the official guru of, that you want to reinvent yourself as. Good for you. You bought yourself a couple of days to do it. And you also, in the eyes of the person who asked you the question originally, care about the same things they care about. You're building your shared understanding. You're building your ability to reinvent yourself. If you want to be seen as the ice cream cake guru, okay, fine. And say, it's funny, I wasn't thinking about ice cream cake until just about an hour before you brought it up. And now that I'm thinking about it, if you could wait till Friday, I have some thoughts on just exactly the topic you're talking about on ice cream cakes. And I'd like to jot them down and see if you think I'm on the right path. Doesn't matter the topic. Doesn't matter how you want to reinvent yourself. My niece, a lovely young woman, still back in Ohio. My niece, actually for a time, and all through high school, had said, I want to be a gourmet dessert baker. Think about that. Gourmet dessert baker. In other words, she wanted to be a dangerous woman. Yeah, gourmet dessert baker. And what was interesting was she found one person who knew how to do it. One person who said, look, you only need to know 3 things. If you know this, that, and this, you'll be able to get in the door. And from there, you better work your derriere off just to make sure that you get the opportunity to learn so much more. But if you know those 3 things, you'll be able to get in the door. She got in the door. She became a gourmet pastry baker. Yeah. Well, doesn't matter what the opportunity is that you're looking for. Doesn't matter which road you want to go down. There are those opportunities, and what somebody else can do, you definitely can pull off. You can make it happen. You can get that moment in the sun where somebody says, here's the 3 pieces of data you need to get started, and from there, others will teach you. Then it's up to you to actually not just emulate them, but to study their role, to analyze what it is they're doing, what it is they're saying, how they're being, who they're being, because that's, really a talent. I loved in high school, and this is just, I've always had kind of a, oh, look, a shiny object kind of attitude in my life. I will chase any shiny object. And I loved band in high school. I thought it was fun. Yeah. Hello. But I really did. I liked band. I played clarinet. And it's funny, I really wanted to get Benny Goodman good at clarinet. And I found out I stink at clarinet. I didn't have it in me. And part of that was I wasn't willing to commit the hours. When it came to studying the role, I'd look at people or I'd listen. I found out I'm very good at listening to clarinet music. But beyond that, yeah, I didn't have the investment. I wasn't willing to put in the 10,000 hours necessary to make it something special. And it wasn't going to be part of my life. But what did I like about being in a band? What did I enjoy about it? I found out it was actually the stagecraft that went with band that I found so appealing. Oh, what did they do that's special? What is it about that particular new role, the reinvented you, that just sounds like that's who I want to be? Hey, here's the question. Am I back at you?
You are back. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, the whole place went dark. We're living on battery power. Yeah. But anyhow, acting the part, it's just as important to know not only what's the message you're trying to send, but also to then be able to carry yourself off in the part. And when I got my first job in radio at WSME in Sanford, Maine, I a guy there at the station, Buzz Brewster, his real newer radio name is Skip Kelly. But Buzz, actually, I was getting chided because I wasn't that good when I was in radio. And Buzz actually came to me one day and I said, do you know Charlie actually kind of dressed me down, said I wasn't sounding good as the news guy? And Buzz said, Carl, you're not acting like you're on radio. What do you mean? And he said, Carl, have you ever listened to the station? I said, I listen to it every day. And he said, good, sound like us. And that was it. Set for the rest of my career. Seriously. Genuinely set for the rest of my career. Why? Because, well, what do you know? All I had to do was act the part. The thing is, knowing what acting the part actually carries, what's there. Ed Phelps, my former boss, best boss I ever had. Ed Phelps is always very big on wear a tie. I had nobody at the clients wears a tie. They're all in golf shirts. Yeah, wear a tie. And that was what was expected. That was part of what we actually anticipated as normal. What we didn't have that exactly normal. And we operated that way from the point moving forward. It was really a beautiful thing. So, act the part. Study the role. And get down to criticism. This is not a moment to humble yourself and beat yourself with a stick. No. This is your moment to say, any suggestions on how I can be better? Better. It's hard, but better. Never ask for what did I do wrong. I'd like to know what I can do better. Asking what I can do better puts you in a much better posture. Also keeps that old self-esteem rolling, keeps everything in the right direction. And when somebody says, no, if you could just be warmer, that's general. I want to know what I could do to actually be warmer. What can I do to be more direct? What can I do to suggest some real change? Come out loud. Get the details. Get the details. Find out what specifics are. Find out exactly what's going on. And they'll be an enormous help to you. Work like a dog. Seriously. You look at anybody who's truly, genuinely successful. Reinvent yourself in any way, shape, or form. Work like a dog. My youngest son, James, got his degree in sociology. Got his degree in sociology, then found out there were no jobs at the sociology store, and he got a job in social. And he's sitting at home one day. He has since moved out. He was sitting at home one day, and he was like, I don't know what I want to do. I've got my degree, and I don't see where that's going to be anything really, really helpful. I want to do something. And I sat down. Do for the rest of your life. He said, Dad, honestly, I like being out and on my own. I'm seeing the country and being on my own. I don't want other people just basically riding on my shoulder. I just want to be on my own. Now think about that. If that's what you had running through your head, you just got your college degree. Now you're thinking, I don't well, and eyes wide open. I said, James, what's up? And he said, figured out what I'm going to do. Rest of my life. I got it. It's like, really? Yeah. I want to drive a truck. I want to drive the big rigs. And I said, James, you can't even drive a stick. He said, doesn't matter. That I can figure out. That I can get down. And I said, yeah, but there's the whole drivers. And he said, Dad, don't even slow me down. I've already got this all planned out. It's going to take me about 6 months to a year to get everything in line. And I'm going to get every last thing in line. My son, the truck driver, is living happily. He really is. And it's interesting, though, he lives happily because he did this. He went out and he learned to drive a stick first. Then he learned to drive and he went to CDL school, got his commercial driver's license, and learned to drive the big rigs. And then he went out and he realized in order to really drive the big rigs anytime, anywhere that he wanted to, he needed 4 or 5 different certifications. The hazmat certification, hazardous materials, the TWIC card, so they can get into and out of ports and pick up containers, the flatbed certification. He got all these different certifications, all of them. He worked like a dog to get those all in line. Now he's living happily ever after. He loves being a truck driver. He loves the fact that his boss values him because he's the only one in their entire staff who has every certification known to humankind. Oh, wow. Now, does this have anything to do with his social work degree? Let me think. No. But he decided very early on, this is not working for me. I need to reinvent myself. And he went out and he took the actions necessary to make. He started knowing truck drivers, hanging out in that culture, so he would have a clear sense of the language, the culture, and everything else. The funny thing is, he's only been at it now for about 4 or 5 years. And look at the last bullet there. What does his company keep asking him to do? Oh, please, can't you just train the other drivers how to do this? James doesn't want to. That's not one of the things that's on his radar. And that's fine. But the beauty of it is they have opened that door. They have given him that opportunity. They have rendered that plausible. It's on radar. And the joy of that is that if he ever decides he wants to, yet another door, another series, another package of reinvention awaits him. Whew. And that gets us where we need to be, even though we had a power outage. So the last question I have for you is, do you have any questions? You can either type them in the chat, you can pass them along to Wendy, you can put them in the Q&A. Okay, if you don't have any questions here, that's my email address and my phone number. If I can help you in any way, shape, or form as you go to Reinvent Yourself, pop me an email. I am the cost of an email, courtesy of ITMPI. Yeah, I am. Cost of an email. And I will always get back to you within 24 hours. Always. Oh yeah, Carl, I've called you, I've emailed you, and you never got back to me. If that happens, I'm in your spam folder. Just so you know, I am there. I really am. But let me just, oh, there is a Q&A down in the Q&A. Let me find that. Thank you, Janet. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. If there's nothing else, I will pass the baton back over to Wendy, and I will let her carry the ball up to high noon.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Carl.
Thank you.
Just a few quick reminders. If you are a premium member of The Great IT Professional, the PDU code for today's webinar will be sent to you via email. If you would like to become a premium member, please visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Premium membership is $199 per year. It does allow you unlimited anytime access to the online library of over 1,000 hours. So feel free to check that out. And I'm going to just go back to the screen. Well, if you have any questions, as Carl said, feel free to reach out to him, carl@carlpritchard.com. If you have questions on the Great IT Professional, I can be reached at wendy.nolan@cei.io. And I will leave this up so you can get Carl's information. Anything? I think just checking one more time. I don't see any other questions, so we'll wrap it up. Carl, thanks so much for being here. Always happy to have you with us. And thanks everyone for joining us on behalf of Carl and CAI's Great IT Professional. We certainly are glad that you participated and look forward to having you join future webinars. Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.